Well, good evening and welcome. You are in the right place at the right time for this emergency nationwide pro-life webcast on the eve of a U.S. Supreme Court case that will shape the future of pregnancy centers in America. We are seeing something absolutely extraordinary happening in the pro-life movement right now, because this event was just announced right before Thanksgiving, and literally thousands of people have joined and are participating with us tonight in this event, and more than 40 pro-life organizations have come together and linked arms for this historic moment. That kind of unity, that kind of momentum shows that pregnancy centers matter deeply to you, to me, to the American people, and that our movement is rising together at this defining moment. Tomorrow morning, Tuesday, December 2nd, the U.S. Supreme Court will be hearing First Choice Women's Resource Centers versus Platkin, a pivotal case exposing how abortion industry allies have been weaponizing government power to intimidate, investigate, and even attempt to shut down pregnancy centers. What the court decides in this case will affect every center, every donor, every volunteer, and every woman and child who depends upon them. So tonight is our final chance as a united movement to stand together for our pregnancy centers before the oral arguments begin in mere hours after we wrap up this webcast tomorrow morning. I want to be the first to officially welcome you. My name is David B. Wright. I serve as the executive director of the Life Leadership Conference. We have a mission to unite, empower, and mobilize the pro-life movement for maximum collective life-saving impact. And that's exactly what we are aiming to do here tonight on this urgent briefing. Our pregnancy centers in the pro-life movement are saving lives. Since 2022, when the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, our pregnancy centers all across America have stepped up in extraordinary and unprecedented ways, serving more clients in more ways than ever before. Pregnancy centers truly have become the most trusted, most compassionate, and most effective life-affirming support network for mothers and babies anywhere in America. And that is exactly why they're under fire right now. Because our pregnancy centers are so potently effective, the abortion industry and their political allies see them as a threat. We've seen in recent months vandalism, intimidation, media disinformation, political investigations designed to drain pregnancy center resources. We've seen legislative efforts trying to restrict or shut them down. And now that threat has reached a heightened level. And that's what this Supreme Court case tomorrow morning is about. First Choice versus Platkin. Platkin is the New Jersey Attorney General who demanded 10 years of confidential donor, volunteer, and staff records from First Choice Women's Resource Centers with absolutely no evidence of wrongdoing. This unprecedented action triggered the case now headed to the U.S. Supreme Court tomorrow morning, and what happens in that courtroom will shape the future of pregnancy centers all across the country. So during our time together tonight on this broadcast, you're going to learn the truth about the First Choice case straight from the front lines. You're going to find out how close pregnancy centers have come to being forced to turn over years of private records. You're going to hear brand new national data on the exploding impact of pregnancy centers coast to coast. You're also going to learn about the political and legal playbook being used to relentlessly attack them. Tonight, you'll hear powerful testimonies from real women helped by pregnancy centers that changed their lives. And tonight, you're going to discover exactly what you and I can do in these next 24 hours before the Supreme Court hears this case and as the oral arguments are unfolding. That's why we're here tonight. And that's why dozens of organizations and thousands of people are linking arms together right now. And that's why it's so important that we begin this event the most important way we can with a word of opening prayer. If you'll please join me. Heavenly Father, we love you. We thank you for the opportunity to come together in your name. You tell us where two or more gather in your name that you will be present in our midst. And tonight we have thousands gathered from all across America and even beyond. and we beg your presence to be with us. Help the technology to hold together, help all the presenters to have the right words to say, help each person who is watching and listening to be inspired and challenged to know that they can make a life-saving difference at this critical moment. And please be with all of those involved in tomorrow's Supreme Court oral arguments. Be with the First Choice Women's Resource Center's staffers, be with the attorneys, be with the justices, and we ask that a just outcome will come as a result of this case. Dear Lord, we entrust not only this event, but this case and the work of our pregnancy centers to you and ask you to bless and expand their territory, to take their work to a whole new level, to reach more women in a time of need, to save more children, to impact more families, and to transform our nation and the world while impacting eternal souls. We ask all of this in the name of your Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's in his name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, so with that, it is my privilege to be able to bring to you the first two presenters this evening straight from the front lines, and we're going to have them on back-to-back, sharing exactly what is at stake in the case that is about to be argued before the U.S. Supreme Court. You're about to hear from Aimee Huber. Aimee is the Executive Director of First Choice Women's Resource Centers, and then she will be followed by Erin Hawley. Erin is the Senior Counsel and Vice President of the Center for Life and Regulatory Practice at Alliance Defending Freedom, and she's the attorney who will be arguing the case before the U.S. Supreme Court. And so, Aimee, Erin, what I would love is for you to brief all of us on this case, what it's all about, and what is at stake for our pregnancy centers.
Sure. Thank you so much, David. I would love to fill you in today. As David mentioned, I'm Aimee Huber. I'm the Executive Director at First Choice, and we have served women in unplanned pregnancies for 40 years. Women who are scared and vulnerable and think that abortion is their only option come to us and receive professional services and compassionate care, all free of charge. Since we opened, we have served over 36,000 women and their families. We have 5 locations in Jersey City, Montclair, Morristown, Newark, and New Brunswick, New Jersey. And our services include pregnancy tests, ultrasounds to medically confirm pregnancy, options counseling, and the parenting program, which provides material services such as baby clothes and diapers. We receive no government funding. On November 15th, 2023, a representative from the Attorney General's office came to my office, asked for me, and handed me a subpoena. It commanded us to release up to 10 years of documentation on our donor communications, our advertising, our statements about abortion pill reversal, and even our donors' identities. There were no allegations of wrongdoing. It was simply a fishing expedition. And honestly, receiving the subpoena was completely overwhelming. We are a small nonprofit, and so the idea of compiling so much information was completely daunting. New Jersey has the 5th highest rate of abortion in our nation. Our state's government has done everything they could to make New Jersey a sanctuary state for abortion. And since pregnancy centers like ours do not perform or refer for abortion, we are targets for a government that disagrees with our views. If our Attorney General can bully us, it can happen in other states that promote abortion as well. And it's our hope that our efforts will result in protection for pregnancy centers around the country. There is really such a great need in New Jersey for women to consider all of their pregnancy options and not think that abortion is their only option. There's also a great need for support throughout their pregnancy and after the birth of their baby. And First Choice provides all of these services free of charge in some of the most densely populated cities in our state. This legal battle is never something we thought we would be involved in. Like many pregnancy centers across the nation, we have been busy for 40 years accomplishing our mission, and we have not wanted to be distracted by things that might distract us from that mission. But today is a new day, and the women and the families that we serve are worth this battle. So while we would not have chosen it, we firmly believe that the Lord has chosen us, and we would pray that he would find us faithful as long as it takes and represent him well.
Absolutely. So I admire Aimee so much. Her and her centers have been through so much. As she mentioned, she was personally served with a subpoena from a representative from the Attorney General's office. And I'm sure, like many of you, that's pretty scary, right? To get a document from the state's highest law enforcement officer, demanding all sorts of things, including your donor information. The subpoena on its face twice threatens that failure to comply with the subpoena can result in contempt and other penalties. One of those penalties is actually the inability to practice, to do business, to help women in New Jersey any longer. So a really serious threat from the Attorney General. And so at Alliance Defending Freedom, we were delighted to come alongside Aimee to be able to represent her and her centers as they help women. We did this by filing suit in federal court and saying what's kind of obvious, that donor names are protected, that you can't have those where you don't have any allegations of any wrongdoing. And so we asked the federal district court to enjoin the Attorney General from enforcing this unconstitutional subpoena. And things went really off the rails. The district court actually dismissed the subpoena. He said, when you have a subpoena, you don't get to get into federal court at all. Instead, you first have to go to state court. But there's another problem. Once the state court rules, then there are a couple of legal doctrines that basically say once one court decides it, another court can't. And so those legal doctrines would mean that once you go to state court, you're stuck there and you never get to raise your claims in federal court, even though Congress expressly provided an action. It's called Section 1983. And we think that's one reason that we actually have a wide variety of amici supporting Aimee and her centers here, including people who don't disagree necessarily ideologically, but they all agree that the right to present First Amendment claims in federal court when you have been harassed by a hostile state official is something that is guaranteed by Section 1983. So the Supreme Court granted cert, and the court will look at these issues. They'll look to see whether, as Section 1983 provides, you get into federal court when your First Amendment rights have been chilled. The Attorney General sort of makes a new argument before the Supreme Court, and he says that these chilling isn't reasonable because you have to ask a court to enforce the subpoena. We think that doesn't track what normal people think. If you get a subpoena from the state's highest law enforcement officer, if it commands you to respond on pain of contempt, if it threatens punishment, if it's part of this campaign of harassment against pregnancy centers, and if it's part of a nationwide context where pregnancy centers around the country have had to suffer through violence and harassment after the Supreme Court's leak of the Dobbs decision, then you are going to be objectively chilled. So we look forward to representing Aimee in court. And the last thing I'll say here is that this is an issue that Aimee is standing for, not only for her own centers, but also for those around the country. We saw a similar investigation from the Washington State Attorney General, who demanded all sorts of information from a pregnancy care center there. The New York Attorney General and the California Attorney General have actually filed suit against pregnancy care centers based on their speech. And in Vermont, we had a special state law that targeted only pregnancy care centers and not other providers of health care. So we're seeing just this concerted effort by certain states to punish pregnancy care centers of all people simply because they don't provide or refer for abortion. So we're looking forward to the Supreme Court telling these attorney generals that that is not okay.
That is clearly not okay. Aimee and Erin, both of you, thank you so much for giving us the perspective straight from the front lines, and also count on all of our prayers for you tomorrow as this case is argued before the highest court in our land. What I want each of us to understand is what we've just heard illustrates the gravity of tomorrow's Supreme Court case, but it also reveals something else that's vitally important. Our pregnancy centers are under attack because they are saving so many lives on such a massive scale. And tonight we want to really help you to understand and to see that impact and why it matters so much on this eve of the U.S. Supreme Court case. Just last week, there were released new national findings from Charlotte Lozier Institute, revealing the most comprehensive picture we have ever had of the life-saving work happening across all of America's pregnancy centers, drawing upon data from the major pregnancy center organizations. And they also were able, through this report, to illustrate why it is that the abortion industry and their political allies are escalating these attacks. To help us understand why the numbers matter so much and why they're fueling this increase in political hostility, I want to first bring on Marjorie Dannenfelser. Marjorie is the president of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. And Marjorie, the question I have for you is, you have seen this movement evolve for decades. Why is this new National Pregnancy Center report, which Lozier Institute, part of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, why is this report so important right now in post-Roe America? And what does it reveal about the collective impact our centers are making and why they're facing these threats and increased political hostility?
Well, you said it. We've been in this for many decades, some shorter periods of time, but I think, David, no insult to you and some others on the line, it's been decades that we have been fighting. And the pregnancy center movement began even before Roe v. Wade. They were there in the way that they should be at every single moment along the way. And as we were planning all the political moves to overturn Roe v. Wade, meaning, the politics, the Senate, the presidency, the Supreme Court nominees, and all that, the beautiful and quiet and most powerful part of the movement, the arms and legs of the movement, were there planning for how to deal and handle with the most precious people, the women and the children who were going to be served better than the laws that were in their states. And then 21 states, of course, eventually passed strong pro-life protections. And the movement stepped up, had been planning to step in so many ways. The pregnancy center movement stepped up and did such beautiful things to step up. The reason this pregnancy center report that's been going on for several years is so important is that it documents this service to women and children over time. And when you think about what the data shows about what women truly want in a moment of unplanned pregnancy, you can see that the pregnancy center and the heart of the pro-life movement wins out over what the offer is from the other side. The offer from the abortion activists and the Democratic Party, unfortunately now that supports them, is here's a pill we'll send to you in the mail, and we don't care what the issues are in your life. You may be addicted, you may be a victim of domestic violence, you may be homeless, you may not have a job or a GED. We have one solution to all your problems, and that is a pill or a surgical abortion. And there's the door. Have a nice life. The pregnancy center movement is a movement of love and seeing her first in the way that the Lord sees her. And so that is the vision of the movement. And so why would it be so horrible for the abortion movement to see this beautiful work happening? It's because they are so addicted to abortion as an institution. They are not convinced that the needs or the desires, the documented desires of women are important. They are of individual women that come across the threshold. They are concerned about the institution of abortion and that it be preserved over time. And that, there are a few women that may suffer, meaning the vast majority, the 60%, who do not want abortion if they had financial and emotional support. It doesn't matter about them. What matters is that we keep this thing alive because we know better than they do. We know better than those little women that they need the abortion to be successful, to get the human beings out as obstacles out of their way. This is not a vision that will last. And the pro-life pregnancy movement knows very well that the thing that is lasting, the thing that is loving, the thing that is winning is what the pregnancy movement is doing. And that is why this report is so important, because it documents the real love and support in very concrete ways. The last thing that I would say is is really just to emphasize in all the work that we do. And I know that at the Supreme Court tomorrow, we will be on our knees praying for the result that will allow us to continue to serve women. But to look at that contrast, there are two ways to serve. One is the loving, life-giving pregnancy center approach to life and to the question in her mind. And the other is the false escape, the pill and the pat on the back and the good luck with the rest of your life. And I just want to thank everyone who is fighting this cause and the brilliant minds at the Supreme Court. We'll be on our knees tonight. And thank you, David, for assembling us so that we can be together tonight and pray and give best wishes to everyone involved.
Well, thank you very much, Marjorie Dannenfelser, and thanks to you and your team for understanding the importance of pregnancy centers. We can't just simply say no to abortion. We've got to have a place that can support a woman to say yes to life and then walk with her in the messiness of her situation and help her with that support network so that 60% who didn't even want an abortion will know that someone is there with practical support to help them. And next up, we're going to hear from Karen Czarnecki. Karen is the executive director of the Charlotte Lozier Institute that actually assembled this report with data from these major pregnancy help organizations. And Karen, my question for you, can you unpack for us the top findings of this new national report? We're going to link it down below this webcast for people to read in depth, but give us the top level findings, and then what do those findings show about the dramatically expanded reach and impact of our pregnancy centers in America right now?
Thank you, David. First, I should give you a little bit of background. We have surveyed 2,775 pregnancy centers in all 50 states. And what we found, and some of the top findings, are that pregnancy centers saw over 1 million new clients every single day in 2024. So each center served a new client every day. That's a very significant finding. Also, for all of those centers, the value of total services in medical care, support and education services, and material goods was $452 million in 2024. And if you look at only one of those categories, intangible material support, diapers, strollers, and just material goods, that skyrocketed from 2022 to 2024, a 48% jump in assistance to individuals and families. So I think that's very significant. 8 in 10 centers provide free or low cost medical services staffed by 10,000 medical professionals. And in 2024, there was an increase in abortion pill reversal provided. 29% of those 2,775 centers provided APR. And in addition, 77% of those centers provided post-abortion support. And the best figure of them all is that there was a 98% client satisfaction rate. So you've got to say that they're really doing something right. The second part of your question, how does this dramatically expanded reach and impact of the pregnancy centers, what does it show? Well, it shows that they are an absolutely trusted source for compassionate, high quality, holistic care. By holistic, I mean medical, spiritual, physical, and emotional support. The total 360, not just, go in and have a particular service. And a lot of these pregnancy centers help individuals for years after that unexpected pregnancy. And they would not have a 98% satisfaction rate if the services were subpar. And if you think about the recent debate in the summer with the Planned Parenthood being defunded for only 1 year in the One Big Beautiful Bill, this really shows that it creates more opportunities for pregnancy resource centers to help women and families, providing the resources where they are at the time of need. And if you think about the closures of Planned Parenthood, people have said, what do we do? Who's going to really provide the needed medical care for women? Well, our own research has shown that federally qualified health centers and rural health clinics outnumber Planned Parenthood 15-1. And coupled with the amount of pregnancy centers nationwide, this shows that women have far more access to points of care outside of the abortion industry and their talking points. So despite the attacks, pregnancy resource centers are not just surviving, but they're thriving.
Oh, that fires me up, Karen. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the hard work your team did to pull this data together. And I can't wait for everyone who's here on the webcast with us to get their hands on that, as well as some simplified infographics that will help to communicate this story. But the data that was pulled together for this report that Lozier Institute assembled came from 4 national organizations. It was their data that made this report possible. And these are also 4 organizations that are absolutely crucial to the network of pregnancy centers that are flourishing coast to coast, and they've become this greater threat to the abortion industry because they're saving so many lives. So I'm going to bring them on one at a time. And first up, I'm going to bring on Jor-El Godsey. Jor-El is president of Heartbeat International. And Jor-El, Heartbeat supports thousands of pregnancy centers worldwide. What does this report reveal to you about the scale of pregnancy help, and what challenges centers are facing right now in your experience?
Thanks, David, for being part of this. This report tells me something I already know, that pregnancy centers are amazing and they're effective. The numbers are awesome. The stories that this report tells just hints at the amazing things that are happening in pregnancy centers all the time, every day. As Karen so capably called out, we're grateful for their work in compiling the information, but it tells a story of a movement that, as Marjorie said earlier, has been going on for decades, growing into this role, and never more so important than in the challenges that are being faced right now in the post-Roe world. Now, the pregnancy help centers have been adapting really in this post-2022 era with new services, with new opportunities, new ways to connect, and new ways to serve, hence the 1 million people that we've been able to serve again in 2024. And that's as the big abortion world has been changing, moving towards chemical abortion. Also something Marjorie called out, there's more and more, all predominantly abortions are done by chemicals, which including being shipped into states that are life states. And so this has caused pregnancy centers to adapt, to be able to help women right where they are. And it shows how the importance of growing this over the last 50 years has been key to set us up for this very moment to be able to work and serve in life states and also abortion states, which are very important. The New Jersey case is an abortion state, and we see when the empowered politicians, frankly empowered by big abortion, are on the attack, we're going to need to operate with an offense. And we're grateful for ADF and the folks that are fighting this fight along with Aimee. But new challenges and new issues are arising, and they're happening in states where we see it on the map as being something that affirms life and protects life. But women still need help as they face challenges every single day when they're confronted with an unplanned and unintended pregnancy. And that's key, no matter where you are, rural, metro, cities or towns. And that's why pregnancy centers now, as is called out, approaching 2,800, are everywhere across the nation. And we need more of them. And we're excited to see more open because they're growing as well.
Oh, Jor-El, we've had all this work we've done up till now in the movement positioned us for this very moment. And I hope the person who's watching us right now can feel the energy and the passion. Yes, we're facing these daunting attacks and challenges in our pregnancy center world. Yes, the Supreme Court is going to hear this case and expose the weaponizing of government power. But pregnancy centers are flourishing. They are doing more good than ever before. And you and I have an opportunity to be a part of a movement that has this 98% satisfaction rate, is helping so many, 1 million clients across the country, and to do something that can save lives and impact eternal souls. What an incredible blessing. So the next organization that was a part of the Lozier Institute study, we're going to hear from its leader. Roland Warren is president and CEO of CareNet. And Roland, I would love for you to share how CareNet equips and empowers pregnancy centers. And from your perspective, why do you feel this Supreme Court moment is so important for your network of centers and the families that they serve?
Thanks for the question, David. Here at CareNet, we are a pro-abundant life ministry that's commemorating its 50th anniversary this year. Our ministry model is based on answering what we call the central question, which is this. If you're approached by a woman facing an unplanned pregnancy at risk for abortion, and you could change everything about her situation except the fact that she was pregnant, what would you want for her? In our view, there are at least 3 things that we would want to see happen. We would want her to choose life for her unborn baby. We would want her to form a strong family with the father of the baby, where he could be a husband to her and a father to the child growing inside of her. And finally, we would want them to become disciples of Jesus Christ, connected to the local church, where they can be disciples who make disciples who live and love like Jesus. We call this the pro-abundant life approach. And this is the vision of our network of more than 1,300 pregnancy centers that we're leading today. Every day, I get to see and hear the amazing stories of how CareNet affiliated pregnancy centers are saving unborn lives from abortion, building strong families, and sharing the gospel with countless families. Indeed, in the last 17 years, our network has saved over 1.1 million babies from abortion and has shared the gospel with over 2.3 million women and men. That's why this case in New Jersey is so important. First Choice Pregnancy Center, a CareNet affiliate, has worked for more than 30 years to transform the lives of women and men in New Jersey. Yet, the state's attorney general has launched an unfounded investigation into First Choice, threatening their constitutionally protected freedoms. This threat to their rights is a threat to every pregnancy center, indeed every faith-based organization in this nation. The government should not be allowed to weaponize its power against the people of faith or nonprofits doing life-affirming work. Serving women, men, and families should never be punished. That's why we stand with First Choice and every pregnancy center in this nation. And that's why this case is so important. The life-affirming work of thousands of pregnancy centers across this country is at stake.
Roland, amen. Amen. The life-affirming work of thousands of centers is at stake, and that is why we are so honored to have you and Jor-El and our next guest to speak on behalf of the thousands of centers collectively that you represent, whose data was pulled together in this powerful report. Next up, we have somebody who not only is going to share with us a perspective on what's going on now, they're going to share some breaking news with us. And our next guest is Tom Glessner. Tom is the president of NIFLA, that's the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates. And Tom, what I would love for you to address is from NIFLA's legal and medical training perspective, what this new report highlights about the professionalism and credibility of pregnancy centers, but also I want you to share some breaking news for us on a new development that just happened regarding these attacks on pregnancy centers. So Tom Glessner.
Thank you, David, and it's a great honor to be with everybody here. NIFLA has been celebrating 33 years of existence with pregnancy centers around the country, providing legal training, legal advocacy, legal advice, counsel, legal defense. We also have a medical division where we help centers implement the legal medical how-tos of limited ultrasound showing a mother who is considering abortion. Her baby in utero is saving thousands and thousands of lives. In fact, the centers that go medical and use ultrasound far exceed the number of life choices in the centers that are just not medical at all. Today, we have 1,800 members nationwide, of which almost 1,700 are medical. We've provided the training so that they can do that. I want to concentrate, though, on the legal division because we're talking about a Supreme Court case that's coming out tomorrow that's very, very serious. NIFLA currently has 7 cases in federal court. We had a major case in 2018 that has set the foundation for our victories that are just happening now in federal court, and that was NIFLA versus Becerra, where we stood up to the state of California who attempted to mandate that pro-life pregnancy centers use their walls of their centers as billboard advertisements for pregnancy centers to promote abortion. We won that case in a major case, NIFLA versus Becerra, and based on that case, we're now winning cases in federal court. But today, I have an absolutely sensational announcement to make. One of our cases, NIFLA versus James, Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, sued Heartbeat International and 11 of our pregnancy centers in state court, claiming that they were deceptively advertising because they advertise abortion pill reversal on their websites. NIFLA came in and filed a suit in federal court seeking an injunction against Letitia James. We won that case at the district court level. It now is in the Court of Appeals. Today, the Court of Appeals announced a unanimous decision affirming our lower court victory, a unanimous decision freeing up our pregnancy centers to continue to advertise abortion pill reversal. We have another case like that in California with almost identical facts, and we're waiting for the Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit to also rule. But this is a very exciting time. Now, this is really important as we consider the case tomorrow, because the New Jersey Attorney General is attempting to stop pregnancy centers from going to federal court. They want to keep it in state court. They want to keep it in state court where they're much more friendly judges to their cause. And by winning in state court, then prevent them from claiming their constitutional rights have been violated in federal court. Well, guess what? We win Nethel versus James in federal court because we were able to go to federal court. If we don't win this case tomorrow, we've got a terrible, terrible crisis on our hands. We'll have attorneys general from blue states going after pregnancy centers in state courts and winning there, and then the centers will not be able to go to federal court for relief. So tomorrow is a critical, critical case for the pregnancy center movement, for the pro-life movement, and for our success at pregnancy centers. Finally, just to say this, pregnancy centers are the heart and soul of this wonderful movement that says all life, all human beings, every unborn baby, every child, every no matter circumstances of conception, no matter circumstances of their poverty, they are made in the image of God, and pregnancy centers are advocates for them and advocates for the lives of their mothers and their fathers. Pregnancy centers are the future of the pro-life movement. We've got to continue the fight to keep them open and keep them growing and keep them saving lives.
Amen. Amen. Tom Glessner, thank you so much. And I was so excited when you called me and shared this news just a little bit ago earlier today. And in a discussion forum that Life Leadership Conference hosts for a lot of pro-life leaders, as people were learning about this news today, one leader said, love that we are seeing these kinds of wins. Somebody else said the tide is turning. And there truly is a momentum, a seismic shift that we're feeling. And we hope this will continue to carry on not only into the oral arguments tomorrow at the Supreme Court on the First Choice versus Platkin case, but ultimately on the outcome of that case, and that it will stop these ridiculous attacks that have been leveled against pregnancy centers. And I want to thank all the leaders and organizations that fight on behalf of our pregnancy centers. Another one of those organizations that participated in this report is Focus on the Family, led by Jim Daly, and they have been huge champions for decades of pregnancy centers. Robin Chambers, their VP of Advocacy for Children, I don't believe we were able to get her on. I'm checking one more time. If she comes on later, we'll bring her on. Apologize that we weren't able to have her on live, but just know that they have been a huge blessing to help strengthen pregnancy centers, help them to develop and implement ultrasounds, and using this network that they have to meet the growing needs of families by aiding and equipping pregnancy centers. So again, Focus on the Family, another amazing organization. And I want to thank each of these organizations and these leaders for your extraordinary leadership in this critical time. The cumulative impact of pregnancy centers is undeniable, and for all of us to come together and to celebrate the work of the thousands of centers across the country, it's precisely, though, because of that impact that these attacks are escalating, and that's why tonight matters, and that's why tomorrow's Supreme Court case is so consequential. In just a moment, we're going to hear some stories of people whose lives were transformed by pregnancy centers to make the story not just numbers and not just statistics and facts, but to make it real with stories that reach the head and the heart. But because we've heard the legal stakes, right? We understand when the Supreme Court hears this case, this is a critical moment. And tonight we're coming together as a movement. But there are three things that we are going to ask you to do as a part of this briefing and in follow-up after it is over. They're all down on the page below, and I'll build out these a little bit more as we wrap up. But the three things, I just wanted to touch on them now so you can be thinking about this, and you could even begin kind of mulling over and discerning what your role is in these next 24 hours. The first is to pray fervently. We are people of faith, and we are gathered here to realize that with man, some of this seems impossible. With God, all things are possible. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We must pray fervently for God's will to be done. Pray now for the attorneys as they prepare for the oral arguments. Pray for the justices. Pray for the First Choice team and staff. Pray for every pregnancy center under attack. That's number one. If you are a person of faith, tonight, tomorrow, bathe this effort in prayer fervently. Number two, share widely. You're learning a lot of information that has just been released about the power, the impact, the collective results of these pregnancy centers, and you're going to hear stories that are going to reach the heart. Be thinking about who you can share this information with after the webcast, because the most powerful form of advertising in the entire world is word of mouth. It's you sharing with friends, family, fellow believers, people in your neighborhood, inviting them to be involved in pregnancy centers, to know how amazing they are, to know the help and support that they provide to women and children in a time of need. And then third, give generously. When I finally had clicked and it dawned on me that this oral argument is happening tomorrow on nationally what we call Giving Tuesday, I thought, oh, God is not a God of coincidences, right? This is our opportunity to send a clear message to these hostile politicians and to those who advocate for abortion that we Americans stand with and support our pregnancy centers and the women and children they serve, as well as the pro-life groups who make this life-saving, world-changing work possible. So I'm not asking you to give to anything that we are doing, but instead to think about your local pregnancy center and all the groups that help make this pro-life work possible. And tomorrow on Giving Tuesday, I'll give you a few more specifics at the end. Generously give to them, whether it's through your local center or through some of the different websites that we can point you to, but be thinking about how to give. But before you do those things, let's hear firsthand about the impact of these pregnancy centers and the lives that are being transformed by them. Some by clients whose lives are being transformed, and some by leaders whose lives are transformed. And one of those I want to introduce first in this section is Lila Rose, president of Live Action. Lila, you and the whole Live Action team have been on the front lines for years exposing the abortion industry's lies, but you've also been standing up and protecting pregnancy centers in digital media and traditional media. Why do you feel this part of our movement is so critically important?
Thank you so much, David. I'm so honored to be on this important webcast on behalf of pregnancy resource centers. I owe a huge debt of gratitude for even being involved in the pro-life movement to the Pregnancy Resource Center movement. When I first got involved in the pro-life movement, it was through pregnancy centers. My grandmother invited me along with her to volunteer at the local center near my home. This is where we would lick envelopes for fundraising, and then we did our Walk for Life to raise money for ultrasound machines. It left an imprint in me that I'll never forget, that this is the backbone of the pro-life movement. Our movement is about legislative policy. Our movement is about education, but most importantly, our movement is about care. And you in the Pregnancy Resource Center world are doing that care day in and day out. You are the unsung heroes, and we are so grateful for you. Doing the diaper drives, doing the prenatal care, doing the ultrasounds, the pregnancy counseling, the pregnancy tests, the parenting classes, the millions of dollars, the millions of hours that are donated again and again to help moms and babies in need. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Here at Live Action, we've got your back. Justice needs to prevail in this case. It is completely unjust what New Jersey did to First Choice, and I believe you will be successful in your case to fight back. We are so proud of you. We will back you through our social media here at Live Action and through Live Action News. We'll continue to report not just on this case, but we will continue to sing the praises of the Pregnancy Resource Center movement. It is the backbone of this pro-life movement, and you are doing that work to save lives directly. So thank you all so much. Hang in there. We've got your back. We're proud of you. And the whole world through this case is only going to hear more about the incredibly beautiful, life-saving work of the Pregnancy Resource Center movement. So thank you all so much. God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much, Lila. And it's so inspiring to me to think about how your story began with involvement in a pregnancy center and how many of us have our lives been touched and blessed by pregnancy centers. Earlier this year, Life Leadership Conference was able to access some national polling data about who are the most trusted voices when it comes to the issue of abortion, particularly when making the case about the sanctity of life in the public square. And the two top trusted voices were, number one, medical doctors, medical authorities, and number two, those with actual lived experience, women who have been served by pregnancy centers, those who've been harmed by abortion. And so now we want you to hear from some of these voices to help you understand the importance of this work. Our next guest is Dr. Susan Bane. Dr. Bane is a board-certified OBGYN. She's also a regional medical director for 4 pregnancy centers in North Carolina. She serves on the medical board for CareNet. She's on the board of directors for Applog, and she wears cool pink glasses. Dr. Bane, my question for you from a medical perspective, what do critics most misunderstand about pregnancy centers, and how would you describe the professionalism, the medical quality of care that you are seeing in centers coast to coast?
Well, thank you for including the voices of doctors in this conversation tonight. You know, there are 2 kinds of people, those that love pregnancy centers and those that do not understand what we do. These are the wise words spoken by the board chaplain of Hope Resource Center in Bedford, Indiana, during a vision dinner I was honored to speak at recently. You know, when people don't understand what we do, they brand us as fake clinics. The word fake is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as something that is a sham or counterfeit. Now, I've practiced obstetrics and gynecology for over 28 years, both in academic settings and private practice settings. And as you said, now in 4 pregnancy centers in North Carolina. Medical clinics and pregnancy centers are far from a sham. We are the go-to place for trusted healthcare for women facing an unplanned pregnancy, and the data prove it, as you heard from Karen from Charlotte Leisure Institute in that amazing report. So let me share with you 3 misunderstood critics of pregnancy centers, or critiques of pregnancy centers, and 3 ways medical clinics and pregnancy centers actually function to provide trusted health care. So first is who we are. Critics often say we don't have licensed clinical professionals that work within their scope of practice. That is just not simply true. Medical clinics and pregnancy centers have clinicians of many types. There are doctors, advanced practitioners, sonographers, nurses, social workers, and more and more. And we practice within our scope of practice, meaning we provide professional services that we're legally and educationally permitted to perform. And this is a crucial component of patient safety. Second is what we do. Critiques say we do not provide comprehensive reproductive health care because we don't provide or refer for abortions. Well, false again. We provide life-affirming health care that does not use death as a therapeutic modality. You know, the purpose of medicine is health and healing, and the direct and intentional killing of an innocent human being is not health care, and it never will be. Pregnancy centers provide medical care of all sorts. People have mentioned it. Typically, at minimum, it's a pregnancy test and an ultrasound, but it goes much further than that in our centers across the country, including prenatal care, STI testing, abortion pill reversal, post-abortion visits, and on and on. I want to focus for a minute on ultrasound because this is a crucial component of medical care and patient safety that's often not found in abortion clinics, and particularly when women order abortion drugs online. We just had a patient in the last week or so who actually told us she went to an abortion clinic here in North Carolina, and she was given the option of not having an ultrasound so it would be cheaper for her. Now, that's against the law in North Carolina. An ultrasound is actually required. Fortunately, even though she took that cheaper option, she had no idea it was jeopardizing her safety and potentially risking her life. Fortunately, she came to a pregnancy center where I work, and we were able to provide an ultrasound for her and abortion pill reversal, which is the even better news. So third is, and lastly, is how we do it. You know, our critics misunderstand what we do as Christian ministries. What makes us unique is that we recognize that Christianity informs the practice of medicine. And in doing so, no one is not neighbor, including preborn children. Pregnancy centers don't just simply fit Christianity into the practice of medicine. Rather, everything in medicine is understood as it fits into God's plan. So as I close, I want to share about one really exciting initiative that APLOG is doing. We recognize that there is a huge gap in the pregnancy center movement for support, for networking, for learning, for medical directors on how to be medical directors in pregnancy centers. So we are starting in January of 2026 a special interest group for medical directors, as well as for those who are interested in medical directors who are members of APLOG. And so if you, your medical director is interested in this, or you want to learn more about it, just contact us at info@aplog.org, and we'd love for them to be involved. Take our pregnancy centers to the next level of care.
Oh, Dr. Bane, thank you so much. And I hope many centers will take you up on that. I think that is some of the best news I have heard to continue to increase the excellence and the medical capacities of our pregnancy centers and the medical directors who help to make them such powerful, life-saving and life-affirming options in our communities. Well, next up, to help us understand the importance of stories and to also give a unique perspective is Autumn Christensen. Autumn is the executive director of Her Plan, also part of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America family. And Her Plan is an initiative that maps and connects the full spectrum of life-affirming support, which includes pregnancy centers. And Autumn, I would love your unique view of how pregnancy centers fit into the wider safety net, pro-life safety net, if you will, housing, healthcare, counseling, practical support. How do the centers serve as a key part of that network? And then help us set up the stage for these two stories we're about to hear from Aisha and Courtney. How do those stories reflect that bigger picture of what our pregnancy centers do to help women across America?
Well, thank you so much, David. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the impact of pregnancy centers on real women's lives. You know, First Choice tomorrow is going to be standing up really for all of us. If the Attorney General of New Jersey gets away with this lawfare against First Choice, the rest of us are next. And that just really shows how important the work is that we're doing. Just to put it into context, you know, abortion drugs are being illegally trafficked all over the country, even into pro-life states. And those drugs are just a click away, or maybe they're already in her neighbor's medicine cabinet right there at her lowest moment. And that means that the work of pregnancy centers is more important than ever. That pressure to abort is magnified when she's struggling financially. And statistically, we know that she is likely to be struggling financially. The data shows us that women who resort to abortion are often already single moms, and they're already living at or near the poverty line. So when she stares at a positive pregnancy test, she's staring at it in the context of everything else. So like the ladies that you'll hear from in a few minutes, she is maybe worried about being a burden, or she's worried that she can't afford to take care of her babies. She might be scared of eviction, or she can't pay her utilities. The work that pregnancy centers are doing is really the work of charitable organizations helping people who are struggling so that they can make a real choice. Because when you are, believe that you can't make ends meet and you don't know how you're going to take care of the baby growing within you, or maybe you even already have children that you can't afford to take care of, you're worried about those kids. And who could possibly be against the pregnancy centers, who are her lifeline? They're her gateway to help. Often that help requires a broader pro-life safety net to pitch in. So that's why Her Plan partners with them and developed the framework for the pro-life safety net in 2020. Pregnancy centers are the heart and soul of the pro-life safety net, but it also includes the other charities and ministries that can each trigger an abortion. And the pro-life safety net is there to address those triggers through shelters, addiction recovery, food pantries, church counseling programs. All of them are part of the pro-life safety net, with pregnancy centers at the front of the charge, ready to be her gateway into all of the care that is available to her. We need an entire pro-life safety net. And by God's grace, the two women we'll hear about shortly, Courtney and Aisha, found help at a local pregnancy center. Not only did they get on their feet and choose life, but they help other moms today. So the work of a pregnancy center can have multiplicity of impact as they care for moms who turn around and care for other moms. So if AG Platkin gets his way, women like Courtney and Aisha cannot get help, nor can they help others, which is just outrageous. So I do ask everybody to be praying for the attorneys tomorrow, to be supporting the work of pregnancy centers locally and nationally. And I just think you're going to really enjoy hearing these two stories.
Oh, thank you very much, Autumn. I appreciate all that you and your team do to help solidify the safety net in states across the country, and also for helping to identify some of these amazing testimonies and clients of pregnancy centers who can share their stories in such a beautiful and profound way. And so I know we're here towards the end of the hour, and this is the best saved for last, no question about it. You know, we have all these national leaders and everything, but these are two heroic women you're about to hear from. Their stories really illustrate the truth, the beauty, the goodness of America's pregnancy centers so much more than any of the facts and statistics. These stories are going to reach your heart. And so first, I am blessed to be able to introduce our first testimonial from Aisha Taylor. And Aisha, I would love for you to share your story about the help you received from a pregnancy center.
Thank you so much, David, for inviting me to share today. My story starts at a time when I had just quit my corporate finance job to become a full-time entrepreneur. I was running a personal finance blog, and I was teaching women how to better manage their finances. And I just felt a calling to be able to pursue my passion and my dreams and my goals of becoming a full-time entrepreneur. But the thing is, not long after I quit my corporate finance job, I became unexpectedly pregnant. And immediately I felt so much fear. I did not know what this meant for my money. I didn't know what it meant for my goals. I had no idea what it meant for my dreams. And at the time, I was just wondering if my dreams of full-time entrepreneurship were over. And not only that, when I told the father of my twins that I was pregnant, he immediately, without hesitation, told me, it's not like we're playing for keeps, and immediately suggested that I have an abortion, and he offered to pay for it. I was devastated. And so I was really at a confused place in my life because on one hand, I had so much pressure from him because the pressure just ramped up and ramped up and ramped up. He just completely just continued to tell me single mom stereotypes, saying that my life would be over, my kids wouldn't have a future, and just held this dream and goals in front of my face, saying that this would never be able to happen if I had my twins. And I really struggled with what he wanted me to do. I really struggled with the fear about whether my goals and my dreams would even be able to come to fruition. But at my core, I wanted to have my babies. I knew that they deserved life, and I wanted them. So I still set up an appointment with my OB because even though I was undecided, I was filled with so much fear, I had all this pressure coming at me, I wanted to continue on and establish an OB because I wanted to make sure I had my prenatal appointments just in case I decided to parent, which is what I really wanted to do. And as I was going to my OB appointments, my sonographer actually noticed that I was crying. And I feel like it's so important to be able to notice people who you're in a space with. And she noticed me. She saw me. She saw the tears. She saw just the struggle that I had. And we just started up a conversation, and she knew that I was running this blog. I had just quit my job to become a full-time entrepreneur. And I remember she told me, she said that the Lord would be able to use what I'm doing, and he can make it even bigger than I can ever imagine. And that gave me hope. But the other thing that she told me is that there was a pregnancy center that provided free diapers, wipes, baby food, and formula, and free counseling. And when I heard about that, I said, wow. They have free counseling, which means that I'm not alone, because I didn't tell a lot of people in my life what I was going through. I had only told probably a number of people on one hand what I was going through. I hadn't even told my parents yet. And so I felt kind of isolated. I felt so afraid. And I was tired of talking to the 5 people that knew about the same thing over and over again. So knowing that there was extra support was really important for me. And so I was so excited after I left that OB appointment I called to make an appointment with the pregnancy center, and I was still crying a lot. And they were just so patient, just even in the scheduling process. Like, I can't even imagine trying to schedule somebody who was crying through the whole scheduling process. But they did. They were super patient, and they made me feel comfortable. They helped me to feel loved and understood and cared for, even from the initial phone call. And so even though I made that appointment with the pregnancy center, I still hadn't fully committed to the pregnancy because I was under so much pressure. And the longer I was pregnant, the worse the pressure got. And so there was one particular day I just felt so weak that I actually picked up the phone to call an abortion appointment, to call an abortion center. And the crazy thing is, I was going to make that appointment with the abortion center and then go to Bible study. And the Lord just worked in a mysterious way because the abortion center never picked up the phone. And so I never was able to make that appointment. And so I went on to Bible study and heard the pastor say, never make a permanent decision in a temporary time. And that's what I realized. I could not undo an abortion, but what I was going through was temporary. Like all of those situations, the fear could change. And that gave me hope. But the pressure got worse. And I remember there was a period of time when I just was struggling to stand firm and hold on to that decision for life for my twins. And I picked up the phone to call the pregnancy center because I didn't want to call the abortion clinic again. And they were closed. And I was begging the Lord, please let them answer the phone. And someone did. And she just talked to me and encouraged me and gave me hope. And that was the hope that I needed to make that pregnancy center appointment. And when I arrived, I was greeted with love, compassion, not judgment. They gave me an ultrasound. And the people were just so welcoming and just listened to me cry. I cried a lot at that time. And they were just so loving to me. And for me, it was knowing that they had the financial material assistance. So being able to get the diapers, wipes, baby food formula, baby clothes, equipment, which I got from them, that was important. But for me, the support, the encouragement, just the hope that they gave me during a time when somebody else in my life was telling me there was no hope was really the thing that stands out the most. As a full-time entrepreneur, I wanted to know that if I ran into a difficult time, that there was a place that I can get diapers, that there was a place that I could get equipment. But for me, having that support system was like, I can't even put into words how important that was that they gave me. I did end up going through their parenting program because at the time I had never even babysat in my entire life. And here I was now unexpectedly pregnant with twins. So having that parenting program helped me to feel more comfortable going into parenting and having confidence that I can even hold a baby, which is what I needed. But that just really stuck out to me. And so my life today, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that they were with me during that time because my twins are now 10 and I'm just grateful to have them. And not only am I a mom, which I love, which is my favorite thing, I also am at a place where I help to equip and inspire single moms who are going through challenging situations. I'm an author. I'm a speaker now. I have a book, which helps single moms walk through an unplanned pregnancy to being able to set up their life to just thrive and to be able to give them hope. I do personal finance trainings for single moms, and I'm just really passionate about helping single moms thrive. Just because I know when I was pregnant, I was told that there was no hope for single moms. So I want to be able to give hope to single moms and let them know that it is possible to be able to thrive as a single mom. So I just want to share today that pregnancy centers do important work. They provide diapers, wipes, baby food, equipment. They provide loves, encouragement, and support. And most of all, for me, they helped me make the decision that I wanted. I wanted my babies, and I was being pressured to do the opposite. And so they're just a safe place for women to land in their pregnancies. And they just do so much important work. And the other thing that they do is even if a woman is fully committed to parenting, the ultrasounds that they provide help women to get set up with health insurance. And if they need to get set up with WIC or Medicaid, the free ultrasounds that these pregnancy centers provide help women to get set up with the essential services that they need to be able to make it in motherhood. Thank you so much.
Aisha, thank you so much. And I'm reminded in scripture that to whom much is given, much is required. And for you to have the blessing of your now 10-year-old twins, and I know everybody is beaming and filled with just such joy hearing your story, but also how you've taken what you've been blessed with, this experience through the Pregnancy Center and your own life journey, and you're now helping others who are on the same road that you were those 10 plus years ago. Thank you so very much, Aisha, for sharing your story. And our last presenter for this webcast, before we'll start to wrap up and send us all forth with specific actions we can take over these next 24 hours to make truly a life-saving difference, it's my honor to bring on Courtney Garaguso. And Courtney, I would love for you to share also how your life has been positively impacted by pregnancy centers.
Thank you so much, David. I actually experienced an unplanned pregnancy when I was 15 years old. It was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. I was terrified to tell my parents. My mom actually worked for a church, and I was raised in a Christian home. And so you can imagine I was very terrified to let her know that I was carrying a child. And abortion was actually never an option at that point. Living in a pro-life home, it was either I was going to keep this baby or it was going to be adoption. And neither me nor my mom nor my dad knew where to begin with either option. We didn't know what life would look like if I kept this baby, and we didn't know even how to go about adoption. We knew nothing even about that. So my mom knew about our local pregnancy center through our church. It was Choices of the Heart. And so my mom made an appointment and we went right away, where they were able to explain to us how the adoption process would work and what it would look like if I kept this child. They were able to kind of lay out how my life would look, how I would be able to finish high school, have a job, raise this baby. And my parents were super supportive. So we did end up deciding to keep this child, who ended up being a little girl. But when she was 3 years old, I was 19 and found out that I was pregnant again. And this time I had a toddler. I was still living at home. My parents were still supporting me. I was still a child really at 19. And I did not really have any career established or my own home. And my relationship with my daughter's father was very toxic at that point. And I knew that I could not keep this child. So the only person that I told was my then boyfriend and the father of my first child. And I did not tell my parents. I went and scheduled with my local abortion clinic. It was very chilling, unwelcoming. They had one purpose, and that was to terminate my pregnancy and get me out. The waiting room was filled with women and men. They were waiting out in the hallways. It was absolutely terrifying. I ended up going back for an ultrasound scan, where I was able to see my daughter, who I didn't know was another girl. And it was a little tiny dot. And when I saw that, they didn't want me to see it. They actually hid the screen from me. But when I had hopped up, I got a glimpse. I went out to the reception and I said, "Can I just pay for the ultrasound and leave?" And they said, "That's fine. You can do that." I paid. I left. I went home. I told my mom. And the only place we knew to turn was to another resource center. And at these centers, the support and the guidance, I mean, when you're in a terrifying situation like that, where you literally think that there is no way possible we can make this work, they clear your mind. They give you a bigger picture. You're no longer facing this in total fear. My choice then was made out of fear, and I wasn't thinking anything through. And I really just needed that counseling. And I had this desire now to see my baby on an ultrasound scan. And I was able to go back, experience all of that completely free of charge. And again, I, through the strength of the Lord, chose to keep that child too, who ended up being another girl. I now have a 14-year-old, and my second daughter turns 10 tomorrow, the day of the hearing. And I am now happily married. I met my husband about 10 years ago. We've been married for 6 years, and he is adopting both of my girls this Friday. We have that court hearing as well. And I never thought my life would be where it's at now when I was 15 and 19. And I fully believe that it was through the foundation that my local pregnancy center set, of course, along with God and his grace and his mercy over my whole life, that I am where I am today. And I actually ended up getting a job 8 years after my first appointment with Choices of the Heart, where I was able to work with other women sharing my testimony and what I had experienced to encourage these girls that if you're making any kind of choice out of fear, you don't want to stop or start there. You want to really think this through. We are able to give all kinds of options. We explain all of the risks, the benefits. We give encouragement. We listen. We let them cry if they need to. We set them up with diapers, food, formula, whatever they need. There's parenting classes. We actually recently had a class where they would come and they would get free car seats. And it's amazing. It's truly a family atmosphere. When you come into our center, you are our friend, you are our sister, you are our brother, and we treat you as such. We love you. And when you call us, we want to just be that voice of reason. It begins on the phone. And these centers need to be able to function the way they have been for over 30 years, like Choices of the Heart, without fear of the government coming in and finding any reason to shut down these centers, because our communities, we desperately need them. And I'm so happy that I am a success story that came out from these centers. And I don't know what me and my family would have done all those years ago in that place of fear. Because they were just that voice of reason and exactly what we needed at the perfect timing. Thank you so much.
Courtney, thank you so much. And on behalf of every person who is here watching at the end of this webcast, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your tenacity and your strength as you press through your situations. And congratulations on your 14-year-old and the 10-year-old's birthday tomorrow. I wish we could all collectively, 1,000 strong, sing happy birthday to her. And then also to your husband for his willingness to adopt your children and for them to be a full family. What a beautiful story. And anybody who ever hears somebody criticize pregnancy centers, say they're fake clinics, they don't do any good, simply show them Aisha's story, show them Courtney's story, and nobody can argue with those real lived experiences. And as we begin to wrap this up, what I want you to understand is that these are two faces and these are two stories, but they represent hundreds of thousands of women and families all across America whose lives are changed every single year because a pregnancy center was open, it was safe, and it was protected. And that is exactly what is at stake tomorrow. Tonight, you've heard from the pregnancy center at the heart of the Supreme Court case. You heard from the attorney who's going to be arguing before the court in mere hours tomorrow morning. You heard from national leaders. You heard from medical experts. You heard from women whose lives were changed because pregnancy centers were there for them. And now, on the eve of this important case, here are the three things that all of us are asking you to do. And they're all right here on the page below where you're watching this live stream or watching the replay of this video. Number one, pray fervently. Pray fervently. Tonight and tomorrow, pray for Erin Hawley and the legal team. Pray for Aimee Huber and First Choice. Pray for the Supreme Court justices. Pray for a just decision. Pray for pregnancy centers nationwide, and pray for the mothers, children, and families they selflessly serve every single day. Pray fervently. Number two, share widely. Spread the truth. Pass along the replay of this webcast. As soon as we finish in just a few minutes here, this will be a replay video. Send it to other people where they can learn about this national data. They can hear these stories. They can understand how powerful and amazing our pregnancy centers are, this amazing safety net. They can download the report that you have right here under Share Widely, where you can download the entire Lozier Institute report with all of those statistics and data. You can counter misinformation. You can post supportive messages online. You can click Share Infographic, and that will open up a pop-up, and you can download. Choose Life Marketing put this together with just mere hours to do it, and I'm so thankful. Pulling the Lozier data into an infographic that we can share on social media, text it, send it to friends. However you send information to people, pass it along with people. But do whatever you can. Get creative. Think of, how can I promote pregnancy centers publicly this week? I want to give you one example I just saw today. An organization that I love, Feminists Choosing Life of New York, is set to air their very first ever TV commercial in New York State. The commercial raises awareness about pregnancy centers located across New York and the vital resources they provide to women and girls experiencing unplanned pregnancies. So watch this video, and as you do, think of the ways that you could help spread the word about pregnancy centers.
Did you know there are more pregnancy resource centers than abortion clinics in New York? Pregnancy centers value both mother and child and provide life-affirming care. They can help mothers apply for affordable housing, child care assistance, and health insurance, provide cribs, car seats, clothes, and infant formula, plus access to nutrition programs, parenting classes, and adoption services. Please share our list of pregnancy resource centers. Join the growing pro-life feminist movement at fclny.org.
So think about if every single one of us just said, how can I use my creativity? Could I make a video? Could I share something on social media? Could I give a talk to a group of students? Whatever it is, find your way to share widely the good news about pregnancy centers. Because if we don't tell the true story of our pregnancy centers, somebody else is going to tell a false narrative. And third and finally, the last thing that we're all asking you to do is realize that tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, the same day the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing this pivotal case that determines the fate of pregnancy centers. This is our chance to send a strong message of support to the pregnancy help movement. If you have a local pregnancy center, if you've ever been to their banquet, you know where they are, you know who they are, your church supports them. Tomorrow is the day that we need to stand strong and support your local pregnancy center. If you don't know, down below, we have a list. Heartbeat, CareNet, NIFLA, they have ways that they can tell you the local center closest to you, either with a directory online or you can request information. Where's my nearest center? And also Her Plan has a list of their resources. Find a local pregnancy center and support them tomorrow. And then also, down on this page, you see all the national partners and webcast partners, all of whom stand with and support local pregnancy centers. And tomorrow on Giving Tuesday, be as incredibly generous as you can to support your pro-life organizations. 100% of the support goes straight to these groups. We're not asking for anything. We just wanted to raise awareness about all of this. Life Leadership Conference, this webcast, has nothing to do with anything other than strengthening the good of the entire movement, helping the pregnancy centers, and helping these organizations. So send a strong message to the abortion industry, their political allies, and the national media that we Americans stand strong with our pregnancy centers and the moms and the babies they serve. So you can look at the list below. And here's one last thought on this. Mark Cavalier, who I work closely with, he did a calculation on the Lozier report and found that if you divide the number of lives saved through pregnancy centers in the last year by the total amount of investment into these pregnancy centers, the national average, this is just an average, is $447 for a mother to be served for a life to be saved. $447. Now, some places will be higher, some places will be lower, but can you imagine if each of us gave $447 or more generously as you were able, or less if you're not able to give that much? But tomorrow, imagine the lives that could be saved, the mothers who could be helped, like Aisha and Courtney. Hear more stories like that. Imagine the message that that would send to these hostile politicians and the national media watching this case. So if at all possible, my encouragement to you is do those three things. Pray fervently, share widely, give generously, and together we can make a difference. Tomorrow morning, the Supreme Court hears this case. And no matter what, pregnancy centers will still be here. We need to make sure they're stronger than ever before. Thanks to all of our presenters, thanks to all the organizations who've been a part of this event, and thank you for standing with mothers, babies, and the centers that serve them. Pray fervently, share widely, give generously, and truly, over these next 24 hours, you can make a life-saving impact. Thank you for joining this emergency nationwide pro-life webcast. May God richly bless you, and may God bless the pregnancy centers serving women and children all across America. Good night.